This is The Guardian.
I'm Faye Carruthers and welcome to The Guardian Women's Football Weekly. Scintillating Spain show exactly why they're favourites for Euro 2025. 5 goals in the first match, 6 in their second against Belgium. Watch out Italy, they are after 7. Speaking of Italy, there was drama in Geneva in a crazy game with Portugal's late equaliser setting up a tense finish to Group B. Norway's star-studded lineup finally do the business, becoming the first team through to the quarter-finals. Iceland hit an iceberg though and are the first nation knocked out of the tournament. Host Switzerland sent them packing, setting up a straight shootout with Finland. We'll preview England and Wales's must-win matches on Wednesday night, update you on WAFCON and some transfer news, plus we'll take your questions. And that's today's Guardian Women's Football Weekly. Wow, what a panel we have today. Some bleary-eyed journalists based out in Switzerland right now. Suzy Wrack, how are you doing? How was your fondue?
Alive. The fondue was brilliant though, really good. We went for their traditional one. It was very tasty.
Okay, there's a question later on in the pod that, I'm going to need your expertise on. Robyn, Cowen, it is lovely to see you. How are you doing out there?
I'm already on my second cup of tea. I wanted a third, but I've managed. I'm going to pace myself a little bit. It's pretty exhausting. I want to say thank you to Beth for pointing out the difficulties of being with your family and without your family. I'm with mine, but yeah, both is a challenge. So, yeah.
Yes, I've experienced both, and I can agree. A challenge. You also have two. That is tricky. Mm-hmm. So well done you. And I have to say, I did award you, I'm not sure if you heard the other day, I awarded you with the best commentary line so far of the tournament with wonky numbers, which had me chuckling. I'm very easily pleased.
Cannot say what I wanted to say on air, which was a swear word and stupid, because it was really it was so annoying.
You had to commentate on them. I mean, it's almost as bad as Stoke with the stripes, and West Brom. Terrible.
Come on, Norway, sort it out.
Alex Ibaceta, it is lovely to see you. You must be absolutely cock-a-hoop at the minute watching your team.
It's not been too bad. Plenty of goals, plenty of reasons to be excited. So I can't say I'm having a bad time at the moment.
No, I bet you're not. We've all predicted Spain to win. And actually, that is where we're going to start, because I know that we normally go chronologically here on the Guardian Women's Football Weekly. But bearing in mind, we've all tipped your country to win the title. Let's kick things off with Monday night's games in Group B, because we were in for a treat. One crazy goal fest and one that served up all of the drama. So we'll start off in Toon, where Spain knew a win would put them in a good position to qualify for the quarter-finals, and it finished Spain 6, Belgium 2. Now then, please don't judge my Spanish pronunciations on this. I should probably get you to list all of the goal scorers. Alex, that would be much better. Or Robyn, obviously.
I think for the entertainment, I think we should just leave it for you, Faye.
Oh no, please don't. Okay, 2 goals for Alexia. Goals from Irina Paredes, Esther Gonzalez, Mariona Caldente and Claudia Pina. Okay? Not too bad?
That was good.
Belgium's goals came from Justine van Hevermaet and Hannah Yearlings as well. Italy failed to beat Portugal later on, so it meant that Spain qualified for the knockouts with a game to spare. And it was a game that served up some of the best attacking play, but also some of the worst defending the tournament has seen so far. And there have been some interesting defences. Both teams arguably could and should have scored more goals. What are your reflections on the game as a whole, Suzy?
Yeah, that's a pretty good summary, to be fair. I mean, I think Alexia's 2 goals in particular were just so nicely worked. And that first one, I watched it back and I watched it back again and I watched it back again. And the movement of Spain for it is just so wonderful. That quick passing, those short passes. But Belgium are literally stood still almost. They're literally too scared to put a foot in or try and make the tackle. I mean, I know against Spain, that's an incredible ask to try and actually get the ball away from the feet of any of those forwards. But you've got to try at some point, because it was like they were watching pinball around them. Like they were the little posts in the pinball machine, just literally watching it ping past. And that is, I think, where it fell apart for them, because, you know, they looked dangerous on the break when they did, you know, have those chances. The second goal was absolutely stunning. Belgium's second, that is. But their defensive performance, I mean, obviously, you know, it's Belgium, it's Spain. So, like, you know, you've got to give them a little bit of leeway for the sort of quality they're up against, and the gap in quality and player pool, etc., between the two sides is just huge. They gave a good account of themselves considering. But yeah, I mean, all of the goals, Claudia Pina's goal was just, you know, really cherry on the top stuff. And then Putellas's little sort of clip backwards at the end as well. Just, yeah, I mean, it's delectable, and it's terrifying that, you know, we were sort of saying at the start of this tournament, you know, who's going to win the Golden Boot? Well, Spain, they'll have, you know, a lot of different goal scorers, so they probably won't have the Golden Boot winner in there. And then they scored that many goals that you're just like, actually, like, I mean, they're probably going to take Golden Boot, Silver Boot and Bronze Boot at this stage, right? Like, it helps they've got the kinder side of the draw too, in that they're facing this level of teams and are able to sort of build momentum into the tournament. But yeah, they just look absolutely thrilling at the moment, but not unbeatable as well, because, you know, obviously they can concede, and we know that.
But a force to be reckoned with going forward, Robyn, for sure. 6 points, 11 goals after just 2 matches. But, you know, let's talk about how they can be got at, if you like, because those defensive frailties were on show throughout that performance.
Yeah, I mean, we can try and hold on to that, can't we? But I think it's just, okay, we'll just score some more. You know, I think actually, yeah, I mean, they played a high line. I mean, the Belgium goal that was set up by Woolart was brilliant, that through ball. And they did have another one ruled out. But it just feels like, okay, we'll just score some more. And yeah, it looked like they were just... It was like watching a five-a-side. You know, it just was reminiscent of my, you know, I used to play sort of five-a-side tournaments, and, you know, suddenly this team with a kind of all the kit and the kind of official badge and their initials turned up, and you went, oh God, we're in for one here, and you just got absolutely battered. It was just like that, and they were not even breaking a sweat. And yeah, they're scoring from set pieces as well. Come on now, just give us something. It's scary. And I read Sid Lowe's brilliant interview with Alexia before, and I messaged him saying, okay, I'm scared of her again. She sounded so defiant and focused and ready and totally over the sort of issues, the injury issues that affected her mental health as well. And yeah, she just looks back to her best and even more mature and experienced. So yeah, frightening.
Yep, and she certainly did, Alex. She's going to get all the plaudits, shaping up to become a Ballon d'Or favourite already. But behind her, Patri Guijarro, you know, how brilliant is she? How good was she in this match? And how important is she in making Spain tick?
Yeah, here we have a saying that when Patri Guijarro plays well, the team plays well. And that's just how it is. She's an absolute working machine, offensively, defensively. When the ball is going through her in a match, that's when, you know, the fluidity is there. It's just, it's 1+1 essentially. When she plays well, everyone plays well. She's such an important player in terms of being able to liberate kind of Alexia and Aitana and whoever's in front of her, to allow them to go higher up the pitch, because she's a 6, but she doesn't drop as deep to receive the ball a lot of the time, because both Barcelona and Spain centre backs are able to kind of push up the pitch to kind of close down the gap between the back line and the attacking line. So Patri actually receives the ball quite high, which allows Alexia and Aitana to go either outsides with the wingers or them to go up with the striker. So her positioning and her movement of the ball is just absolute key to be able to kind of give everyone else the space that they need to start the attack. And it's kind of ridiculous to say that, you know, so many players rely on one player. And it's not true at the same time, because we know Spain are so agile on every single position. Every single player is able to do an important part, but Patri is such a key part of everything. And, you know, again, I'm actually quite happy we're talking about her, because usually we don't talk about her, because she does all the dirty work in terms of recoveries, in terms of, you know, starting everything. Everything starts after her, essentially. But actually yesterday in Alexia's first goal, it was, Mariona gave it to Patri. Patri did a ridiculously good, kind of reverse sideways pass, which is a lot harder than it seems because you have to shift your entire body weight to make the ball go through. And she just cut between two Belgium defenders to give Vicky a perfect ball to start that attack that led to the Alexia goal. So yeah, she's a player that when she plays well, the team plays well because she's probably one of the key positions and players in the entire team.
Yeah, and I do think we have to give those kind of players the plaudits they deserve because the front line always get the stars, don't they? But and by the way that I said Patri Guijarro and the way you said it sounded like two completely different players. I didn't do Spanish at school, it's quite evident.
To be fair, that last name was quite, when you read it, it's like you panic.
Yes.
It's like the G and the J and the UI, and it's not the easiest one.
The advice I was always given when I first started out in broadcasting was say it confidently, say it fast. Nobody notices. Not quite sure. Belgian manager Elisabeth Gunnersdottir said, it wasn't an easy game for Spain. Everything I looked for and wanted from my players I saw. It wasn't enough though, and that's something we have to build on. And obviously that later result, Suzy dumped them out of the tournament with a game to spare, which is really disappointing for them because actually I think they probably have more, but how much are they going to take away from the fact that they challenged Spain and made it hard for them?
Probably not much ultimately, because being out of the Euros is just going to hurt more than the sort of 2 goals and the beauty of the second one. But I mean, they had a chance in this group of getting through it, because outside Spain, the rest of those teams are fairly well balanced, I would say, in sort of level. So I think that will be the most frustrating thing is that there was a chance. And they've had some decent results this year. They only lost to Spain 3-2, was it, in the Nations League back in February. They beat England 3-2 in April. So they've had a decent set of results sort of in the build up to this tournament. Some heavy losses as well. The reverse fixture against England was 5-0, but given the gap between them, that's to be expected. So I think they will be extremely frustrated that they've not taken more from this. They've got a statement to make really in the last game in terms of kind of their worth and just a little bit of face saving. Going away with no points is not what any situation any team wants to be in, and they've got some decent players in that side. So there'll be minimal consolation in the fact that they were able to get 2 past Spain when you concede 6. But yeah, a disappointing tournament.
Yeah. How do Spain go about approaching their final game against Italy, Alex? I mean, they're going to want to top the group with tougher opponents on the horizon, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. I think it is right to say that Belgium kind of did everything well. I think the manager could be happy at the end. As good as you are defending for 90 minutes for any team, no matter what players you have, is a big ask, especially against a team like Spain who are just relentless on the attack. Essentially, you saw the first half and it was just Spain kind of tiring them out and Belgium being able to kind of hold up. Second half was just Belgium, being tired, and essentially, it is what it is. They are human. So when you look at that and you kind of look at a side like Italy, who have a lot more experience in terms of big players and in big occasions and big games that could potentially hold it up a lot more than Belgium, but at the same time, they have been struggling this tournament a lot. I think their first 2 matches have been a bit disappointing, considering the quality of the players that they have on the pitch, the style of play that they try to play. Italy is known for defensive, style play. I think the players that Italy have on this squad are quite the opposite. Though they are good defensively, they're quite an attacking team. They're quite an offensive team, which is quite impressive for Italy's side, just historically, of Italian football. So I think Italy is going to be a good challenge. I don't think they're going to be the challenge that everyone expects because they have been a bit disappointing. But at the same time, it's a different style of play. It's a play that's going to be, I think, a lot more open than Portugal and Belgium have been, just because Italy have a lot more confidence to go forwards and know they have, a lot better quality individually than Portugal and Belgium to be able to get something from the attack. Aerial duels are going to be important as well. I mean, when you go up against, I'm not going to even try to pronounce her name from the top of my head, the Belgian player. She's tall, she's soaring, as good as Patri Guijarro, defended her. She's going to win that ball no matter what. And Italy has those players as well that are good in aerial duels, that are tall, that are strong. So that's going to be an interesting challenge as well. But yeah, I think Spain, at the end, what we've said, as much as they show their defensive weaknesses and the weaknesses that they have in key positions on the pitch, they just keep outscoring whatever goes wrong.
It's going to be fascinating to watch. Hopefully another fun game as well. Exactly, unless you were writing it up like poor producer Soph, who had to just keep ripping up her pages and starting all over again. In Geneva, the high-stakes game in the group between Italy and Portugal. And Italy knew that victory was going to take them through to the knockouts. Portugal, though, knew if they lost, it was all over. And the game certainly delivered in terms of its drama. 3 disallowed goals, 1 red card, huge saves, hitting the woodwork, a Galazzo and an 89th minute strike keeping Portugal in the tournament. It finished Portugal 1, Italy 1. Diana Gomez struck with a minute to play, cancelling out Cristiano Girelli's superb opener. And a late red card for Ana Borges reduced Portugal to 10, but Italy just couldn't take advantage of their extra player. Was it the game of the tournament for you so far, Robyn? You didn't have to write it up.
Yeah, no, for me, I think Sophie is obviously, she's still, dealing with the trauma.
Traumatised.
Yes. But no, it was brilliant chaos, wasn't it? Especially towards the end. And I'm really pleased for Portugal because that first game against Spain, I mean, the context of it, I can't imagine how they must have felt, with Diogo Jota news sort of very fresh in the mind and all that. And it's just such, it shocks everyone. And I'm sure a lot of them knew him sort of personally. And then to face Spain, I mean, that's really, in terms of circumstances, preparing for that game, they were up against it, to say the least. So I'm really pleased they managed to keep their tournament alive. And yeah, I mean, I know they replaced the goalkeeper, didn't they? Patricia Moraes came in. And yeah, gosh, she was enjoying herself, wasn't she? She was celebrating the saves, and I saw a clip on social media at a full time with her celebrating with the fans, yelling into a megaphone. I mean, this is what we want to see, isn't it? These are the scenes we want to see. Brilliant, just great, yeah, great vibey game.
I love that. That's the best description. Great vibey game. I mean, look, they had shipped 25 goals in 5 matches before this one, and Francisco Neto made so many changes, as Robyn said. Patricia Moraes earning her 99th cap in goal. Ana Borges bringing her 186 caps of experience into the back line, although that experience did tip over a little bit. We'll discuss whether or not that was a red card, by the way. Their playmaker, Kika Nazareth, as well, who was spoken about a lot on the pod, appeared for the first time since that ankle injury she suffered in March. And the changes paid off, Suzy.
Oh yeah, massively. I think bringing Patricia Moraes back in particular was huge. Every time she made a save, I was singing "That's Amore" in my head. That little the eel gif or gif, not meme, that does the rounds every time that song comes up. I just had that playing in my mind at all times. I'll share it in our chat. But yeah, I thought like some absolutely incredible saves, and she celebrated like like they had scored every time she made one. You just can't underestimate the impact of having Kika back on the pitch from a morale point of view for the team. Like, she's the talisman of that side, and yeah, it was maybe not as influential as she can be at times, but she's still returning, so just having her on the pitch and having her involved is a huge boost for them. But yeah, a huge turnaround given how many goals they conceded. And yeah, you do wonder why some of those more senior players kind of hadn't been played in sort of both the game against Spain, but also some of the warm-up games in the lead up a little bit more, because their experience really paid off in this one.
Yeah, definitely did, because, I mean, that final 10 minutes plus stoppage time, Diana Silva thought she'd scored in the 80th minute, but there was that lengthy VAR check to rule it out for offside. And so many teams have folded in that situation, and that experience exactly did help them through. They kept the pressure on Italy. This is what Francisco Neto had to say. We were solid, we were brave, we played high, pressed our opponents, played like a team in the European Championship. We're a team with personality and ambition. It's not easy when you're losing, then you score, but it's disallowed again, and then you score again. I'm very proud, and the last words I told my players was to play and to have fun. Playing in a European Championship is a privilege. They're friends, they want to do things for each other. As a team, they really rise to the challenge. Could this be the moment, bearing in mind the way they earned that point, Alex, to kind of spark life into their campaign after a pretty difficult few months?
Yeah, I think obviously, considering that Belgium is sat at the bottom of the group with no points, is going to be kind of a confidence boost, is kind of the one confidence boost that they can probably grasp, considering how their campaign has gone so far. I mean, they're a team that has ups and downs. I think they've performed well when they've played in when they played in the Nations League, when they played in the second division. They thrived against, the smaller teams, but when you put them up against bigger teams, they struggle a lot. So they're kind of that in-between level now, just getting used to playing against big teams and being able to get some success out of them. I think their, togetherness and how much they care for the same thing is kind of what gets them through a lot of the times. I think individually they have a really, really, really good quality. The football style in Portugal is very similar to that of Spain. When you look at the foundation of the kind of football that the Portuguese players play, I think they've, as a national team, they've struggled a lot to kind of find someone that can actually gel the team together in a very productive way to be able to compete against big teams. And they continue to show that struggle. But I think going up against Belgium in the last match, knowing that there's still a possibility that they could get out of the group. In terms of points, they can equal Italy if Italy lose against Spain. Again, it is down to the goal difference. But when Italy are coming up against Spain, you can have the hope that Spain are going to score a lot of goals and kind of help you out with that. So I think Portugal are going to go into this last game with a lot of dreams, a lot of hope. And if the team do show up together on that day, I think they can actually get something out of Italy. Italy, they're not a high scoring team. They are, a very key moment team. And we saw against Portugal now, Italy are, I think they had like 14 attempts on goal and just one goal. So I think Portugal in that sense could kind of take something out of that and say that, going up against Belgium, why not? Why can't we qualify? Why can't we qualify for the quarterfinals? We can get 3 points. We can kind of hope that Spain score enough goals. And I think the togetherness, and again, having, as Suzy mentioned, I think Kika is a key player for them. As the experience goes with Ana Borges and, Jessica Silva, you have these players with a lot of experience. But when it comes to kind of morale and having that motivation to go through, Kika playing in Barcelona has been a key for that as well, with that winning mentality that a lot of these players don't necessarily have. But yeah, I think Portugal can definitely go into this last game and be confident.
Yeah, well, Suzy's confident in them. She's just posted, when you make a big save and your Euros are saved, that's amore.
Oh, that's why she's the journalist. She's the wordsmith here, isn't she?
Clever. I had to sing it.
I've rhymed save with saved, so let's not big up my skills
I'm
too far.
gonna put it up on Instagram.
Beautiful.
So you can see it.
Alex has just reminded me. So I'm doing Spain, Italy, and that horrible word permutation. Oh. Usually I'm just concentrating on the game I'm doing, but I reminded, when you get to the third round of group games, you have to know what's happening elsewhere, don't you?
Yeah, and yellow cards.
I hate it, yeah. And I have to do maths, I don't know.
Maths in live direct.
Do not like
2 + 2 = 7.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you need to rely on your team for that, Robyn.
I need to delegate the maths.
Yeah, can't do the maths while talking. That's too much. Too much juggling. Well, let me use that dreaded word, permutations. They mean that Spain are through, Belgium go home, so it is just that other match that's important in terms of who progresses to the quarterfinals. Italy need at least a draw over Spain in that final match. Portugal know that they've got to win it regardless to have a chance of reaching the quarterfinals. So Italy-Spain is 8 o'clock in Bern on Friday. Portugal-Belgium, 8 o'clock in Sion. We still haven't decided if it's Sion or Sion. Somebody tell me. Because I've said something different each time. Anyway, I shall find out from someone Swiss. Right, let's look to Group A. Second game's underway on Sunday night, and in the early kick-off, Norway put themselves on the brink of qualification with a 2-1 victory over Finland. Gemma Granger's side had the perfect start. They went ahead through an Eva Nystrom own goal just 3 minutes into the game, but Finland rallied impressively and equalised through Una Sevenius. Caroline Graham Hansen's moment of magic broke Finnish hearts, though, making it 2 from 2 for Norway. And we spoke about the Norway conundrum last week, Suzy, and in our preview pods as well. But, you know, they scraped a win again. What did you make of their performance this time?
Not very convincing, and very, very, very fortunate to be in this very, very, very kind group. You know, I fear for them in the knockouts, but, you know, there is the potential that they could build some momentum in this group that helps them in the knockouts, but I'm not convinced so far. You know, I think they've only scored actually one goal themselves. You know, here it was an own goal early on, and then Caroline Graham Hansen's cross essentially that went in off the post.
It was a mishit cross, wasn't it? Come on, it's not. Are we saying a moment of magic, really?
Exactly. Yeah, it's not a strike. It was fortunate, and I think they were pretty fortunate against Switzerland as well. So yeah, not very convincing. I don't understand them. I just don't understand how those players just cannot play together for some reason. It just blows my mind. It's one of the great mysteries of our time.
Well, I mean, they could progress quite far with those players not being able to play with each other. And you know Caroline Graham Hansen quite well, Alex. She missed that sitter before she found the equaliser. Also played a huge role in the opener. And what else does she bring to this Norwegian side?
Oh, I think we need to dedicate an entire podcast episode to Caroline Graham Hansen, honestly. No, I think, to add on to what Suzy says, it is just an absolute wonder at how Norway they could easily go the Spain method and outscore their defensive problems with the players they have, but it is kind of ridiculous when you think about the fact that they can't score goals when they have Caroline Graham Hansen, Frida Mannen, Gura Wright and Ada Hegerberg. Villa Boeri said that also, Ingrid Engen in the midfield, and you just look at that and you're just like, why? Big question mark over that. But I think Caroline Graham Hansen, she is a player that gets really mad when things don't go, fairly. She's an emotional player when it comes to fairness. And I think she's going to look at her team and she's like, why are we incapable of playing well when we have the players that we have? And she is definitely one that gets frustrated when it comes to that. I think the national team for her in general is just frustration because she knows that they could do a lot better, but they don't for whatever reason that may be. So in the games, she kind of puts her head down. And when Caroline Graham Hansen puts her head down, things happen. And she is okay with kind of putting a lot of pressure on her back and getting it out and, making those crosses, making those key plays that lead to a goal. And I think that for any team, having a player that is capable to change the game literally in just one moment. She does miss sitters, as we saw her do, but she is the player that reacts. If she messes up, she reacts. If she loses the ball, she reacts. If, her team go down a goal, she reacts. And that mentality and effectiveness, I think a lot of players have that mentality, but the effectiveness not always kind of, matches up to that mentality and that intention that a lot of players have. But Caroline Graham Hansen, she's such a quality player that her actions match her intentions. And you can see that in a team like Norway, when they do need a boost in those key moments because they're incapable of kind of producing those moments themselves as a team. Having a player like Caroline Graham Hansen is just a cheat code on any team, really.
Yeah. Finland have perhaps been the surprise package in the tournament so far, Robyn. Marco Salaranta said, "We played very well against very good opponents. I feel we should have got something out of the game. The result just doesn't feel fair, but all credit to Norway, of course." It's not fair, but well done. They dominated every single metric in the game, bar the one that mattered, and this is a game of football. There is only one scoreline that matters. What have you made of them so far?
I've been really impressed. Yeah, no, we thought they would be the sort of the team that were going to go out, and I guess we'll get onto Iceland. They've been sort of surprisingly knocked out early, but no, I was really impressed. Like, they got varied sort of build up. They were sort of going long and then going short, and I guess it's just that lack of quality in the finish, maybe for them. Pardon the fun for Finland, eh? Not the only wordsmith
so bad,
here, Suzy.
So bad.
That's bad, isn't it? Apologies. But yeah, no, I thought they played really well. They were easy on the eye, and they scored a really good goal. And yeah, I just, as the coach, you must be absolutely furious. You just think, this is so unjust. But as you said, this is football. And yeah, it's just Norway. Going back to them, they I know Tim Stillman was saying they're just so baffling, aren't they? I'm really pleased for Gemma Granger, obviously, as the only English coach. I guess the difference is they're continuing to not play very well, but they're now winning. So I guess that's something.
Progress.
Yeah, I get that they could be onto a real hiding at some point because it's out of possession. They just look really suspect. So yeah, I mean, I guess good for them, but there's a reckoning coming, I think, perhaps.
Yeah, it could be around the corner. However, they do take top spot and they are through to the quarterfinals. Because of what happened in the late kickoff, which was Switzerland beating Iceland. So the hosts moved to Bern and delighted their support, earning their first victory of the tournament, a 2-0 win over Iceland. Massive for Pia Sundhage's side. They look really bright going forward. Geraldine Rutella at the heart of it once again. How did they get the job done in this one, Suzy?
I just like they're really well organised side. I was really impressed with them in the opening game. I was really impressed with them again. Leah Walty has been brilliant in sort of controlling the game and the pace of it from midfield. They show, like, I would say, really good potential going into the knockouts. Like, for me, they've been far more convincing than Norway, despite having lost to them. Iman Benny, I think, looks absolutely brilliant. Has obviously joined Man City, and that's like a really exciting thing. She's only 18 years old. We've got a lot of things to be quite excited about in her sort of arrival on the European stage in this way. But I don't know what Pia's done to sort of get them this well put together in a relatively short space of time, because prior to the tournament beginning, the results have been a little bit up and down. There've been a few questions asked. The sheen of like their world class manager sort of coaching the Euros host had gone a little bit domestically. So yeah, it's really good, and it's great for the tournament moving forward, because the Swiss fans have been phenomenally good. Like, I'm really enjoying their vibe around these games, and like the support for the team. Like, you always say, how much of an impact can a loud home crowd actually have on like results, but I do think it is playing a little bit of a role in just elevating them that step further, and maybe that's the difference, but maybe that's doing them a disservice as well as a team, but everything has come together at the right moment for them, and I think they look really, really kind of well organised.
Not quite the same for Iceland though, Alex. First side to get knocked out of the tournament, and they're probably going to be sitting there feeling like they haven't had a chance to show their best, really.
Yeah, definitely. I think they've kind of been neutralised in the matches that they've played. They still have big players, but I think over the past few years, the key players have kind of been either retiring or just not being able to kind of keep up that momentum. And Iceland, they're not a footballing nation, so if they do well, it is going to be kind of unexpected, sort of say. And I think now, I think they're going into a new cycle when you have big players retiring and leaving, and it's going to be interesting to see the future of Iceland football, because they have produced really, really good players that have played in big teams across Europe. And yeah, I think they're just not being able to kind of capitalize on the things that they do well. Not to say that they're doing everything wrong, because it's quite the opposite. I think they've showed what they're good at and what they're bad at, essentially. But when they get in front of goal, when they get those key moments, they're just unable to capitalize. And at the end, we said it. There's one stat that matters when it comes to advancing through football, and it is scoring. And they haven't been able to kind of necessarily get their head together to produce those goals. And whether that be the players that are on the pitch or the manager or the system, just this tournament isn't theirs. They're not necessarily at the level to be able to compete, and I think they know that as well. And it is what it is. It's the sad reality of going through a cycle and having to start again. But again, Iceland have always been there for all these major tournaments, and that is respectable. But right now, they're just not at a good moment. I think you could see that.
Yeah, disappointing for them. But actually, let's talk about the Swiss crowds, Robyn, because the hosts are always heavily supported. But seeing the stadium full and the extent of the fan marches in Switzerland has been brilliant. And we got this email in from Jim Hearson. Hello, Faye, Suzy and friends. How important is it for the tournament and future development of the women's game in the country that Switzerland grasp the opportunity to make the next round? Hosts doing well always boosts a competition, but it feels particularly vital in a place where women's football is still gaining traction. Keep up the good work, Jim. P.S. Faye, I think you were getting fondue mixed with raclette on Sunday's pod. The former is only for dipping into, while the latter is scraped onto a plate, usually with meat, pickles and potatoes. We will discuss the cheese in a second. Let's focus on the football first. Robyn, what do you make of Jim's comments?
Yeah, no, it's really important. I think actually Suzy kind of answered this on the Guardian Football Weekly yesterday. A similar, because Switzerland is it's still fledgling in women's football, and the respect it has for it, I think it's going to do absolute wonders. The league's still very much, not professional. I guess some of them are sort of semi-professional. But I think actually that for me, just because I don't really know the context as well. First of all, when I walk around where I've got an Airbnb with my family, they are everywhere. I think they're advertising Lidl, that, there are players, and it's fantastic. So it's like back in England, you go into a supermarket and there's Leah Williamson there. So I think this is great. But second of all, I think the way the Swiss are playing is getting the crowd on board. Quite surprisingly, Pia Sundhage I don't think she's really known for attacking free-flowing football. She is playing these teenagers, like Suzy mentioned, Benny, Schertenleib, her assist, and then Vandela as well, the assist. These are teenagers, and they are performing on this stage, and they look so, so exciting. And you can see, afterwards, they're going up to the crowd and interacting with them. These are real magic moments that we've experienced, haven't we, in England? So I think it can't really be underestimated just how important it is for them to keep going and to get through. And I just think from just watching them point of view, I really hope they do, because they are playing really entertaining football. So yeah, I think I'd like to see more of them, basically. So yeah, and I think it's a great question.
There's a journalist here in Spain, Sandra Gelme. She kind of summed up that feeling really perfectly when it comes to especially us that we've been, in the women's game for so long, and you've seen the progress. And it's kind of when these major tournaments come round, you can enjoy the matches, but at the same time, in the back of your head, you have this sort of pressure and sort of feeling of, there's so many new people watching these games. There's so many new people kind of enjoying it. And you watch a game thinking, wow, this is a game that newcomers are going to like. And if the game goes bad, you kind of feel, a bit of frustration. You're like, no, this isn't a representation of women's football. This isn't a representation of this team. It's not a representation of these players. And it is nice to see Switzerland kind of live up to that pressure, because if they were doing wrong and they were doing, not playing well and not kind of showing the potential, we would be frustrated because of that pressure of there's so many new people kind of watching Switzerland women's football in the tournament. And they're living up to that, and they're kind of bringing in those newcomers, and we can kind of, breathe, and you're like, yes, you're doing the job that we hoped that you would do, and the people are loving it, and this is kind of what we want to see. Of course, we're not actually frustrated because, it's football and it happens, but you do feel that pressure on them to kind of represent themselves as good as possible for everyone to kind of see that and respect that.
Yeah, I'm now just going to dumb the conversation down and talk about cheese, because I'm very, very disappointed. Because I thought that you dip bread into a fondue, and I know raclette because I've had it. Yeah, that's what I thought. But Jim says not.
No, he's saying you do.
He said, I think you're getting fondue mixed with raclette.
Yes,
the former
is for dipping. Fondue is for dipping.
Yeah, but that's what I said. That's why I said you risk losing your bread in the fondue.
I don't think you mentioned raclette. I thought you implied that you could either would you be dipping into your fondue or like
scraping it
putting
out?
it on top?
I see.
So I think
there going,
that's what he's saying.
I was talking of the jeopardy of losing your bread in the cheese.
Which I ignored. You know, I ignored your the gaping error in your like Swiss cheese, because like I think like whilst raclette is probably delicious, like I just don't like the look of it, of like a plate of delicious looking food with then this like huge lump of melted cheese just dolloped on top is weird, whereas I much prefer the dip. Tasty, yeah, I bet it's delicious, but it just looks weird. I love a fondue. Fondue all the way.
For me, it's difficult because I've got all these stupid allergies that make life very hard. I have to almost have it's a good thing, I suppose. I have to almost have my own fondue, which I can't even have anymore unless they do vegan fondue, because I now can't eat cheese. But
do not set me on the task of trying to find you a vegan fondue.
A vegan and gluten-free. So if somebody else, before I knew that I couldn't have cow's milk, I would struggle with a fondue because somebody would put normal bread into the fondue, which would be a problem. So that I'd have to scrape cheese out early, so that I'd dip it on my plate so it didn't, do you know what I mean? That's what I was trying to say, but clearly very, very wrong terminology used.
I think we should spend longer on this very, very important topip. It's much more important than the success of Swiss football.
Now we can go into the types of cheese.
Also critical.
Yes, brilliant. Cheese to be continued. Right, next game's in Group A, because that result that we were talking about feels like an age ago between Switzerland and Iceland has set up an all or nothing encounter between Finland and Switzerland in the final group game, which is on Thursday. So that's an 8:00 kickoff in Geneva, and Norway will play Iceland at 8:00 in Thun. Right, that's it for part one. In part two, we're going to have a look at how England and Wales are shaping up as they look to avoid an early exit from the tournament. Welcome back to part two of the Guardian Women's Football Weekly. So, England and Wales face must-win encounters on Wednesday. So let's look at how both of them are shaping up ahead of their second group matches. You were in the press conference, Suzy, with Georgia Stanway ahead of the Netherlands game. What sense did you get of the mood in the camp?
Well, I just love Georgia. I mean, like literally at the end of the press conference, we all just sat there going, she's just so brilliant. She's just so good. I just love her so much. She's just so like honest and, she doesn't back away from any question, and she speaks so well. Yeah, I mean, she was really honest about her own performance, that she didn't think it was good enough, that she was disappointed in it, that she tried to compensate for the things she was doing wrong with the things that she knew she could control, which was like running and getting tackles in and things like that, and like trying to communicate that she was still working her socks off and could do something off the ball even if she couldn't do something on the ball. And like she was just so good. In terms of the vibe in camp, it really up for it, like, is the vibe. Like lots of talk, she said that, had lots of discussions about sort of going back to their roots and being proper England and playing for the little girl that wanted to be there and that kind of stuff. And it was all like clear that they had a lot of sort of reflection on the game, to a point Georgia literally sort of, the first thing she said in the press conference was, I didn't really want to do this press conference today. I'm fed up of talking. I just want to focus on putting things right on the grass. Like, there's a real determination to like right that wrong. And I think Lucy Bronze played a big part of it. She actually said it before the game when I asked her, when we sat down with her, about the fact that they'd had slow starts in winning starts but slow starts against Austria and against Haiti in the Euros and the World Cup. You know, they weren't very convincing performances, but they got the wins. But the quality of the opponent meant that was okay. And she said, we lost to France in the opening game in 2015, and then we went on to have our best ever finish in a tournament at that time. So, you know, Georgia was saying that Lucy had that conversation with them as a group, and that, you know, this isn't the end, essentially. So who knows what happens against the Netherlands on Wednesday night, but they are really up for it, and I think really frustrated that so many of them had a bad day at the same time.
Yeah, what's going to be really fascinating, Robyn, you know, because this kind of pressure is not what this England team are used to being under. You know, the kind of jeopardy of your, you know, potentially about to go out. Is there a danger that determination could actually spill over into trying too hard, and that they put so much pressure on themselves walking out against the Netherlands that, you know, it's almost too much? How have they got to balance that, and what have they got to do to improve?
That's a really good point, actually, yeah. But I think there's enough experience in there. I know there's been a lot of noise about the experience that they don't have, but there's a lot of experienced players in there still who've had a lot of major tournament experience and it has been in a bit of jeopardy. You know, Lucy Bronze was talking about, you know, they lost to France in 2015, didn't they? And that ended okay, you know, with a bronze medal at the World Cup. So, you know, there are players there. I think it's also to do with how Sarina Wiegman responds. She's usually very, very good at being level-headed. Although I think we were all a bit surprised by the scenes, you know, the cutaways to her on that first game. That was a bit jarring, actually, because we've not seen that before. But I trust her, and yeah, I think that's the thing. It is a bit concerning just for us as supporters and wanting to see them go through, because yeah, we haven't really seen this for a while, certainly under Sarina Wiegman. This is a must-win game, but I'm fairly confident they will respond, because yes, a lot of the sort of criticism was sort of tactical, but it sounds like even from Georgia Stanway, it was actually, we'll be better, we'll have more desire, and we'll just be better. And if they're just better, that's all, just perform to their level, I think they'll be all right. You know, they'll be okay.
I wish it was that easy.
The other thing she said is the game was really tight, right? And they played really badly, and they could have got a draw. So, you know, like that, they said they can take a lot from that as well.
Yeah, obviously we're looking at it, Alex, from an England perspective. From a Netherlands point of view, they had a really strong opening performance against Wales. They know that a win is going to take them into the knockouts. Where do you see their main threats, and what are they going to be looking out for from England?
I think their main threat has been a very well-known Vivianne Miedema. You know, we know her really well from the WSL, and she is such a key player in everything. And I think she's finally back to kind of just enjoying playing. You know, with her ACL injury and everything, she has struggled to kind of get back to that enjoyment of, you know, just letting herself go and playing that. And I think when Vivianne Miedema is at that level, she is probably one of the most dangerous players in any given match against any given opponent. And you look at the Netherlands as a whole, and I think a lot of the players, the younger players particularly, that over the past few years have never been at the level of, you know, the more experienced players of Miedema, Van der Donk, you know, these players that have been carrying the team. You have these young players finally being up to the level of the more experienced players. And the Netherlands have a balance that they've been struggling to find over the past few years, in my opinion. And, you know, you have on both sides of the pitch, you know, Esme Bruch, for example, is a very young player, and she scored that goal. You know, Victoria Pelova is finally inserting herself in a very, you know, dominant and strong manner into the national team. And you have this balance between, you know, veteran experience and young players finally having that confidence and an ability to kind of step up in these big moments. And that's probably a balance that a lot of national teams struggle to get a lot of the time, is the balance between the young players and the experienced players, and having that kind of effectiveness together. And I think the Netherlands have finally reached, that peak point with the players on the pitch, and that's dangerous. Point final. Maybe England haven't gotten to that point yet with the younger players kind of living up to the potential of the experienced players. And potentially, England have better youngsters than most teams, but in terms of performance, maybe, that gel and that fluidity between the experienced players and younger players isn't there yet. But I think Netherlands have finally reached that point, and I think it's going to be a brilliant, brilliant match. The balance again between the big players, known players, style of play, I think is a really close one as well. That's going to be quite interesting. England likes to, play down the wing, so do the Netherlands. So I think it's going to be a head-to-head clash. That's quite interesting. But the Netherlands, again, they're at their peak at the moment, I think, with the players that they have. And I think they do want to take advantage of that, because 4 years later, their experienced players, potentially aren't going to be there in the next 4 years. So I think, that the older players know that and want to kind of motivate everyone to this is it kind of mentality. I think Spain have that as well. Alexia Putellas and everybody this potentially won't be there in the next 4 years. I think Alexia will, but the players maybe not. So that mentality that the Netherlands have is scary to go up against.
Just a quick one on the weather, Suzy. We need Tom Gary, our meteorologist, on the pod. Is that going to play a factor at all? 5 o'clock kickoff, UK time. Obviously, the first game was in the evening, a little bit cooler. Is it still as oppressive, the heat, as it was last week?
No, it's great. It's been raining. I've never been so happy to see rain.
Robyn has her arms up in celebration.
It's much, much cooler.
I agree. Yeah. When the rain came, I was on my knees.
I was doing a rain dance in the street. I was like, let's go buy an umbrella. It's just the best. And it's going to rain tomorrow as well. It's going to top temperature 21 degrees. And then it starts to get hotter again towards the end of the week. But it's not hitting at all for the next couple of weeks, the sort of mid-30s that it was. So we're free, we're saved.
Right, that is a good idea. I was thinking more from a lioness's point of view than your personal points of view, but...
Don't care.
I think I've lost my... It applies to them too, doesn't it? I just
lost my Zoom.
They'll be loving the rain, won't they?
Rain dances. The jiggling around for the rain dance caused my iPad to slip off its perch as a result. Right, let's talk about Wales. Another tough encounter for them. They take on France in St Gallen. Jess Fishlock full of fighting talk when speaking to the BBC this week. If you're going to ask me if I still believe that, I presume she was asked, can you go through? Then I'll say wholeheartedly, I still believe. The biggest message is not to dwell too much on the game and the loss. I think we really need to take what we need to take from it, move forward and throw the rest in the bin. You wouldn't expect anything less from Jess, would you, Suzy?
I mean, if she said anything different, you would have said she should have retired already. She's got to back the team to be able to do something, of course. Whether they can do anything, I think, is, the biggest of big asks that there could be. But, anything can happen. It's football. The gap is huge. The gap between them in quality and experience and, player pool and talent within that player pool is, so huge. That French front three are going to probably have a little bit of a field day if Wales aren't really, really compact at the back. But yeah, anything can happen. It's football. Yes, that's come up a few times. Rhiannon Wilkinson's side probably going to set up as a compact defensive unit again, Robyn. We saw that against the Netherlands. The problem this time is that a draw isn't going to be enough. And, we go back to the age-old issue of there's no out-and-out striker. So how do they go about winning the game?
Yeah, it's going to be tough, obviously. But yeah, I think you've just got to, it's that old sort of, a lot of teams do this, taking it block by block. And they were so close to getting to half-time against the Netherlands. I thought they were really good, and actually just that Miedema goal almost woke the Netherlands up, and then they kind of battered them in the second half. But they are clearly very well coached, Wales. And actually, looking at the sort of stats, they won more duels than the Netherlands. They are getting stuck in. They're going to have to do the same. They are so committed. The problem is I think they probably will tire like they did in the second half against the Netherlands. I think, you just got to take it almost sort of, 10-minute, 15-minute blocks and see where you are. And don't think about the fact you need to win. We'll cross that bridge when maybe they have frustrated France and they need to get a goal. I think that's the main issue. I actually think defensively they're not too bad. They really have very little threat up top. Although, I mean, Kerry Holland, what incredible performance she put in. I'm assuming, even if she isn't fit, she's going to have to play. I'm afraid she's just going to have to.
It was cramped. She's fine. It wasn't the hamstring injury we worried about.
I'm not surprised though. She was, honestly, it was like she was passing to herself at times and getting on the end of those balls. It was like unbelievable energy. And they all just fed off that. It's going to be very, very difficult. And but I do think that their spirit and the fans and the coach, it's not out of the question.
No, it's not. But are you expecting more of the same from France, Alex? They looked so strong against England. This feels like the most cohesive France we've kind of seen in a major tournament for a while.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's, nail on the head there. It's been a long time coming to see France this way. They have been that team as well. We talked about Norway having, that front three. I think, France have always had Diani, Baltimore and Gatoto as their front three. And, you have these players and you're like, why aren't you scoring more than you are, considering, you have these players. And finally, I think it is that cohesion and that balance. I think balance is the key word for a lot of the teams, whether it's in a good way or a bad way. You either have that balance or you don't. And I think France finally have that balance between, they have individually probably one of, if not the strongest teams in the tournament. When you're talking about Gartawi, Basha, Elisa Almeida, I thought she was doing brilliantly behind Basha, considering that's not her position. She is a centre back. Basha is a fullback, but you push Basha up, you push your centre back into a fullback position, and it's as if she's been playing that position her entire life, and that's not it. And when you have your two centre backs, you don't have Wendy Renards, and obviously everyone is kind of freaking out about that. But I think when you have Alison Bath has been really, really good with Lyon, and you have these two young centre backs that are living up to the expectation. And it's just been brilliant to watch them. It's been so, so impressive. Individually, I think we've known for a long time the quality that these players have, but it's finally gelling together on the national team. And you have had that cycle kind of switch over. You have Wendy Renard's not there for Alison Bath, for example. You don't have, Eugénie Le Sommer for Marie-Antoinette Gatoto. You don't have, Amandine Henry for Grace Guijarro. France have kind of cycled through their big names and their big players that have been legendary for France, and now it's kind of laid down to the new players, and they've been grasping that with everything, and they've been living up to the potential that these other players have left, and they're playing brilliant football. It's so nice to see Sandy Baltimore, again, WSL player at Chelsea. She's had an amazing season, and that's reflecting on the national team. Gartawi has been one of my favorite players for a very, very long time, because the quality that she has is just absolutely ridiculous. And you combine that with a player like Sandy Baltimore, and that wing is just, it's ridiculous. There's no other way to put it. It's just absolutely ridiculous to watch them. And I think, France are probably one of the most, I would even go further to say maybe even more impressive than Spain in a lot of ways, because of the balance over defensive qualities and offensive qualities. They're not scoring as much as Spain, but they're not conceding as much as Spain, and they're kind of playing very, very together.
Wow, yeah, they're more balanced.
Yeah, it's a bit different. So I think it's just France have been probably the most impressive side for me this tournament so far.
Yeah. Oh, good luck, Wales, in that case. Wednesday, 5 o'clock, Letzigrund, England, Netherlands. Those times are British summertime, by the way. 8 o'clock on Wednesday in St Gallen for Wales against France. Right, a few other bits to fill you in on and update you. At the Women's Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco, Senegal top Group A after a 4-0 win over the Democratic Republic of Congo. They were 3-0 up after just 22 minutes, and the Lionesses of Teranga can book their place in the quarterfinals if they beat Zambia on Wednesday. Nigeria are looking for an incredible record-extending 10th WAFCON title. They kicked off with a 3-0 win over Tunisia in Group B. They topped the group on goal difference after Algeria's 1-0 victory over Botswana. And holders South Africa kicked off their title defence with a 2-0 win over Ghana. In the other match in the group, a first-half stoppage-time goal from Saratu Traore was enough for Mali to edge their encounter against Tanzania as both sides started their campaigns. A few bits of Women's Super League transfer news for you as well. Aston Villa have made their first signing of the summer, bringing in versatile Netherlands defender Lynn Wilms in from Wolfsburg. She came on as a substitute against Wales at Euro 2025 on Saturday. Just 24 years old, can play centre-back and right-back. She's a Champions League runner-up as well, so decent signing for Villa. Arsenal have picked up Jamaica fullback Taylor Hines on a free after her contract with Liverpool expired. Looks like a 3.5-year deal, that one. She's returning to the club she started her career with. Jamaica goalkeeper Becky Spencer's joined Chelsea on a permanent basis from Tottenham after her loan spell last season. That's on a 1-year deal with the option to extend. And Everton have been busy, haven't they, since the arrival of their new owners. Japan's centre-back Rion Ishikawa has become the third player to sign for the Toffees this summer. There are reports as well that England's Katie Robinson could join on loan from Aston Villa. Right, there you go. You're up to date on everything so far. Thank you very much, Alex. Brilliant. I can't believe a Spanish journalist has said that France are now favourites. The rest of us say Spain. Good luck. We will speak to you later on in the tournament.
Thank you for having me on. Yeah, I think I'm lucky that a lot of Spanish fans don't speak it that English and won't necessarily hear this. But but no, I think it'll be interesting going forward. I think that game is one to look forward to if they do come up against each other. It's going to be kind of the game of the tournament. But yeah, no, thank you for having me on.
As always. Robyn, so lovely to see you. Make sure you're getting some rest. I know how exhausting it is. Keep doing the rain dances.
I'll attempt to. Thanks, Faye.
All right. Suzy, always a pleasure. Work on that vegan cheese for me, please.
Is that like telling someone to go and buy stripy paint when they're an apprentice builder?
Yeah. I like it. Right, we'll be back on Thursday. We'll review the England and Wales matches, keeping everything crossed for Wednesday. A reminder, you can find us on the Guardian Women's Football Weekly social channels during the summer as well. Make sure you check out that pod too. Suzy's going to be featuring a lot on there, as is Robyn with Max and Barry as well. Keep having your say. Send in your questions via social media or emailing us at womensfootballweekly@theguardian.com. And as ever, a reminder to sign up for our bi-weekly women's football newsletter. All you need to do is search Moving the Goalposts. Sign up. The Guardian Women's Football Weekly is produced by Sophie Downey and Silas Gray. Music composition was by Laura Iredale. Our executive producer is Sal Ahmad.
This is The Guardian.